Hi everybody, Steve Matthews here with this week's video update. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, I guess the big story that's been in the news here, about the last week and a half. And of course, I'm talking about the very tragic events that took place in Parkland, Florida. The shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School that left 17 people dead. And really, what I really would like to focus on is, of course, all of the political fallout that has taken place over this. I don't think that I have seen a mass shooting occur where there has been just so much real outcry in the press, in the mainstream press, to ban guns, to demonize the NRA, to demonize gun owners, and essentially really enact aggressive anti-gun legislation. There have obviously been outcries before. There have been protests before and things of this sort. But this one really seems to have an intensity and an organization to it that really calls out for refutation. What I've done here is I've put together a few talking points. I just kind of want to go over these quickly. I don't have time to develop all of them, but I thought I'd just throw some of these ideas out there for you. As I mentioned, I'm a gun owner. I'm a member of the NRA. And I very much believe in the Second Amendment. And I think it's important to talk about these things. What I'd like to talk about first here is an idea that generally is not discussed when it comes to gun issues. And that is the difference between, or the two different philosophies of criminal justice. On the one hand, you have crime prevention. On the other hand, you have a philosophy of crime punishment. So crime prevention versus crime punishment. What approach do we take? Generally, one of the things that you see when you have a big tragedy take place, such as what happened in Florida, someone's going to get up and say, there ought to be a law and to ensure that such and such a thing never happens again. There ought to be a law. I mean, how many times have you heard that? I wish I had the proverbial dime for every time I heard someone say that type of thing. And of course, we've been subject to pretty intense calls for new gun control laws here in the wake of that school shooting. That is a form of crime prevention. The idea is what you do is you regulate, you punish everyone, innocent or guilty, it doesn't matter. You punish everyone in order to prevent some future wrongdoing. Well, that is unjust. And why is it unjust? Because you are punishing the innocent along with the potentially guilty. So really, you're actually punishing all innocent people, some of whom may be guilty of criminal actions at some point in the future. That's not justice. That's not justice. So what is justice? Well, a just approach to criminal punishment is you punish those who are evildoers, right? I mean, didn't Paul talk about that in Romans 11? He talked about the civil magistrate bearing the sword to punish those who practice evil, those who do evil. Now, one of the things that's important to remember about that passage in Romans, it doesn't say anything there about those who think evil. It doesn't talk about punishing so-called thought crimes. The civil magistrate has the God-given responsibility to punish those who practice evil, those who are evildoers, those who commit crimes. So if you look at the Old Testament, look at the case law, look at the civil law of the Old Testament, ancient Israel, you didn't have a massive regulatory bureaucracy, did you? Dictating every last aspect of everybody's life. What you did is you had a criminal justice system, and that criminal justice system consisted of investigations. There are very specific principles laid out for how to investigate a crime. There were principles of due process in terms of trials for people. And if someone was found guilty, there was also a call to administer justice. And that justice, of course, the appropriate sentence, the appropriate punishment, well, that would vary depending on what the crime was. I mean, sometimes if it was a case of theft, it would involve restitution. If it was a case of premeditated murder, well, it was execution. They were to be executed. The criminals were. But it was a system of criminal punishment, not crime prevention. But these people who call for new laws all the time are all about crime prevention. That is an unbiblical approach to criminal justice. Second important point I'd like to make for you here. It's an old saying, you've probably all heard this, but I think it deserves iteration here once again. Guns don't kill people, people kill people. Yeah, guns don't kill people, people kill people. That's an old saying that's been around, well, pretty much my entire life. I don't know where that got started. I know the NRA used to use that. I don't think the NRA currently uses that statement, at least I don't recall the last time that they did, but it's actually a good saying. It's very philosophically sound. Why is it sound? Because it puts the emphasis where it belongs, that is, on the individual person. A gun is an inanimate object, it's a tool. A gun is neither good nor evil. A gun can't do good or do evil. Men do good or evil, okay? People do good or people do evil. A gun can be used for good. A gun can be used to defend your family against someone who's broken into your home. A gun can be used for evil. It can be used to go rob a bank or maybe go shoot up a school. But the gun itself is not the problem. It's the person who uses that gun. And suppose, for a moment, if you banned all guns, well, would that mean that nobody would be killed? Well, I'm pretty sure that's not the case. We know from some of the jihadists, right, that one of the favorite weapons jihadists have used over the past few years are cars and trucks. Remember there was that guy in New York City just last fall. Ran over and killed, I think, 6 people with a pickup truck, ran in from a hardware store. So, based upon what that individual did and what some other people did, there's been a number of those instances over in Europe, I know, over the last few years. So do we ban cars? I think there was actually someone after someone used a delivery truck to run people over in Sweden. I think someone actually did propose doing that. And of course, that's the same logical mindset that says every time that there's a shooting, we also have to ban the Second Amendment. Neither guns, nor trucks, nor baseball bats, nor knives kill people. People kill people. Another aspect of the story, the shooting that really doesn't get a lot of attention in the mainstream press, is the odd frequency that SSRI drugs are somehow involved in the lives of people who commit these kinds of horrific crimes. So what's an SSRI drug? The SSRI, I looked this up on the internet, okay? SSRI stands for selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. In short, they're sometimes called psychotropic drugs. They're the kinds of apparently very powerful medications that people who've exhibited mental disorders are given, supposedly to, I guess, help control some of their maybe more extreme behaviors. In a piece this past week, Ron Paul, one of my favorite political commentators, former Congressman Ron Paul, he wrote an article titled "More Gun Violence, Let's Look Beyond Politics." And he makes a number of good points in this article. And one of them is he brings up the issue of psychotropic drugs. And he actually quotes a story that was published in the New American fairly recently. I'll just quote that from you. It says, quote, let me start back here. It says, as the New American magazine pointed out this week, at least 10 high-profile mass shootings have been committed by individuals who were, quote, and this is a quote from the New American, quote, were either on or just recently coming off psychiatric medications, end quote. And Ron Paul makes a point that the young killer in Florida was no different. According to his aunt, he had been on these medications to treat mental problems. So you've got this issue with psychotropic drugs out there. But it's obviously the guns. Obviously the entire problem with mass shootings, it's all about the guns. If we just ban the guns, all these bad things are going to go away. At least that's what we're told. Another interesting point that Ron Paul brought up in his article was law enforcement incompetence. And as you may have read, that law enforcement, and specifically the FBI, was notified well before this shooting, and apparently on more than one occasion, that this individual was just flashing neon red all over the place, that he was going to do something terrible. And Ron Paul brings this point up. He says, how is it possible that the FBI once again missed so many obvious clues that a violent person intent on causing massive harm to others was about to strike? There have been several cases. I think the Daily Caller noted this. There have been several cases over the last few years where law enforcement, the FBI or maybe other law enforcement agencies, were provided advance warning that, hey, people would say, this guy over here, he's a problem. You need to go check this guy out. This fellow that committed these crimes, he had, I think, posted on one of the social media platforms that he wanted to be a professional school shooter when he grew up. That's kind of a red flag. And that wasn't the only one. The New York Times ran a piece just, I believe it was on Friday, saying that there were people who had called in to the FBI and tipped the FBI off. And this was a month or 2 months before the school shooting, that this guy was like a powder keg ready to go off. Yet nothing was done about it. Of course, there's another issue with law enforcement, too, and that is the failure of the guards. There was apparently a Broward County deputy that was outside the school that didn't go in, and I just saw reports today, in today's February the 25th, Sunday, February the 25th, I just saw a report that apparently there were, in addition to the one person they originally talked about, there are 3 more deputies outside of the school, so four men in all, apparently all of them armed, but none of them did anything, and they were all outside the school while the shooting was going on. Now, I think that's pretty interesting because when you listen to some of these anti-gunners, these people who want to ban guns, to limit guns, to control the public's access to guns, they don't have any problem at all if the government has the guns. They are more than happy to see the government have as many guns as possible. And yet here we have the government having guns, and nobody did anything. The government was there. They had the weapons. They had at least 4 men, so they had this guy outnumbered 4-1. And nobody did anything. Now, I don't know all the particulars that all went on there, but it sure seems to me like a major case of law enforcement failure. The police had the guns, and the police didn't, apparently, do their job. I think that's pretty sad. And yet we're supposed to trust the officials to have the guns, but you can't trust citizens to have guns. There's another aspect to this whole anti-gun crusade that started here in the past week and a half, and maybe it's kind of highlighted very well by this article. This is from ABC News. It's got a headline, "Growing list of companies are cutting ties with the NRA." And it goes on to talk here about one of the first companies that said it would cut ties with the gun rights lobbying group was First National Bank of Omaha, which announced Thursday that it would not renew a co-branded Visa card with the NRA. A slew of other companies, including United Airlines, MetLife, Hertz, and Best Western, followed suit, announcing plans to terminate special discounts and benefits for NRA members. Well, darn, I guess my NRA card isn't going to get me a discount at United Airlines or MetLife. But then again, I don't really think I want to shop with those people. Our corporate overlords have deemed that the NRA is a irredeemably deplorable group, and I guess apparently everybody that's associated with the NRA is irredeemably deplorable as well, and I guess we all are deserving of just punishment. And so they're gonna lower the boom on us. Well, anyway, that's just about all I had time for today. I have a lot more talking points here. I might just go ahead and post that in a blog article tomorrow. At least with the blog, I don't have time limits, so I've got 15 minutes on YouTube. Thank you for watching. This has been Steve Matthews. I really appreciate your time. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Also, think about hitting that subscribe button. I always appreciate subscribers. Thanks so much. I'll talk to you next week.